You keep doom scrolling, comparing, hearing, not enough. What if that voice isn't yours but a story written over us? For 20 years, gatekeepers buried a different Magdalene. The Nag Hammadi Gnostic texts reveal the beloved disciple and garments of life to reclaim direct communion. If discovered, the spell breaks. Are you ready to remember? Ancient truth shatters all modern illusions. What if the voice in your head that keeps saying not enough is not even yours? In the last section, we met Mary Magdalene as a hidden center of meaning. Now you begin to see a bigger link. The same system that erased her story also writes the script that keeps you small. You discover that scarcity is not just a feeling. It's a pattern put into motion, then replayed into your life. Here's the main idea in one line: a control system hijacks spiritual hunger and turns it into dependence. Think of it like this: imagine a radio with lots of stations. Someone chooses which songs you hear, how loud they play, and when you get an ad. Over time, you think those songs are your taste. In the ancient world, certain leaders tuned which gospels were broadcast. The Nag Hammadi texts and the Gospel of Mary show a very different station playing, one where Mary is the beloved disciple and teacher. Gnostic writings even warn of archons placing obstacles in the path of the elect. Those archons sound a lot like modern filters and algorithms that block what would free you. This is how the system works simply. First, it creates a story that narrows who can speak for the sacred. Then it trains you to listen to a smaller, angrier inner voice, the inner critic. Finally, it monetizes your hunger by feeding you content that keeps you scrolling and comparing. The Gospel of Mary and the Gospel of Philip paint Mary as the one who understands and teaches. Yet centuries later, leaders rewrote the script so that her authority fades. You realize now that edits in scripture and edits in your feed follow the same logic: control by selection. Look at the evidence with fresh eyes. In the Nag Hammadi cache, you find Mary speaking, teaching, and calming the disciples. In other ancient fragments, the beloved disciple appears as a woman. Scholars note that texts were altered so a male figure would be acceptable to the new power structures. That isn't academic coldness. This is a pattern you can spot in your life today when a platform decides which posts deserve attention and which voices are buried. This matters to you because the scarcity voice shows up as simple daily habits. You scroll at night and feel hollow. You compare your behind the scenes to everyone else's highlight reel. You hear that small voice say you don't have what it takes, and you act from that fear. Here's what this means: when you name the voice, it loses power. Say aloud, "This is the archon of scarcity. Ask who benefits if I believe this." You will notice the pattern instantly. Ads that push status feeds that reward outrage, friends who measure worth by likes. You begin to see how the system turns your spiritual hunger into a hunger for validation. Here are concrete moves you can make. First, audit 1 hour of your feed this week and mark every time you feel not enough. Second, practice a short pause before you engage. 3 breaths to separate the script from your true feeling. Third, read a line from an alternative source like the Gospel of Mary and notice how a different voice sounds. When you do these small acts, you break the loop. You transcend the habit of feeding the inner critic. You remember that longing for meaning is not a weakness to be sold. It's a signal to reclaim your own plotline. Right now, you begin to see the parallels that connect your inner life to an ancient pattern of erasure. You feel the recognition: the same forces that silenced Mary Magdalene 20 years ago are still operating, only in new clothes. Next, we follow the paper trail. How edits, councils, and decrees in 325 AD and later centuries rewrote the record on purpose. You'll discover the documents and the deliberate edits that prove this was not accidental. What if Mary Magdalene's erasure isn't just an old story but a living script you play out every day? We just looked at how her voice was written out of the official record. Now you see the other side. That very erasure taught you how to doubt yourself, defer to outside authority, split your body from your spirit, and live on autopilot, always editing who you are to fit in. In this section, you'll discover exactly how that ancient silence shows up in your relationships, your screen time, and your creativity. And you'll get a simple practice to start remembering your own voice. One clear idea holds this together: the silencing script. Think of it like an old soundtrack playing under everything you do. When Mary is pushed off stage in texts and murals, the soundtrack says, "Don't trust your knowing, wait for permission, hide your desire." Think of it like a dimmer switch on your power. Each time you defer, the light goes lower. The Nag Hammadi and Gnostic writings, the Gospel of Mary among them, paint Mary as a teacher and leader, yet for nearly 20 years that picture is buried or rewritten. Because her authority was taken, the culture learned to hand authority to institutions instead of to itself. This is why you habitually ask for permission before you act, why you second-guess a gut feeling that wants to lead you, and why spirit and body feel like two separate things you must patch together with apps and gurus. This matters to you now. Here, what this looks like in real life. You hold back in a relationship because you think your needs sound needy. You scroll and edit your life for likes so you won't rock the boat. You sit before a blank page or canvas and hear a tiny voice say, "Not vivid enough," and you stop. You feel a gap between what your body wants and what someone else told you is holy or right. You recognize the pattern when you shrink at meetings, when you apologize for a simple ask, or when you choose safe projects that won't expose you. The cost is presence and power. You trade being fully here for staying acceptable. The stakes are simple: stay silenced, and you lose momentum; reclaim voice, and you reclaim influence, creativity, and inner peace. Here's the alternative: you begin to live into restored inner authority, steady courage, true reciprocity, and a grounded confidence that doesn't wait for a green light from someone else. You start small and real. Try this 3-step remembering practice, short, daily, and concrete, to begin rewiring the soundtrack. 1. 5 breaths, hand on heart. Close your eyes. Breathe in for 4 counts, out for 6. Say quietly, "I remember my knowing." Do this once in the morning and once before bed. 2. Name one small intuition. Write one line: "I feel called to." It can be tiny: call a friend, start a sketch, say no to one request. You do this within 24 hours. 3. Do one brave thing. Make the phone call, speak in the meeting, submit the piece of work. Celebrate the action no matter the outcome. Do this daily for a week and you begin to see the old silence loosen. You feel your body and spirit align. You recognize when you defer out of habit and you break that habit with small acts. You discover a new loop: you remember, you act, you learn, and each loop brightens the dimmer. Next, we'll trace how that renewed authority changes not just your inner life, but the circles you move in. How a single reclaimed voice can ripple out and reshape whose stories are allowed to be heard. Get ready, the way you carry authority is about to be examined, and what you choose next will either protect the old silence or begin to dismantle it. What if reclaiming Mary Magdalene's voice started not with another lecture, but with 5 simple acts you do every day? After we tore back the old story and saw how she was hidden, you now get the practical part. In the next minutes, you discover a compact daily ritual, the Magdalene way, that puts her teaching into your body. I'll show you 5 steps that, when repeated, dress you in what Gnostic texts call the garments of life, or as we'll call them, garments of light, and begin to rewire the scripts you've been living by for 20 years. The core idea is simple: habit rewires attention. Think of your mind like a path in a field. The more you walk the same route, the deeper the track becomes. The Magdalene way intentionally builds new tracks. Think of it like physical therapy for your inner life. Small, repeated movements shift how you move and think. This is not symbolic lecture. It's practice. The Nag Hammadi texts and the Gospel of Mary show Mary teaching, anointing, and guiding people into direct knowing. You do the same, but in 5 short steps you can use every morning or whenever you need to come back to yourself. Step 1. Pause the scroll, breathe. Stop the feed. Close your eyes for 3 full breaths. This quick interruption breaks a reflexive chain. Think of it like a break on an out-of-control playlist. For you, this creates microspace. You notice tension, you feel the body, you regain choice. Do this first thing or before a hard call. Step 2. Anoint and self-attune. Use oil, water, or simply your hands on your chest. Make a small, intentional gesture of care. Think of it like rebooting a device, a tiny reset that signals I matter. In the ancient stories, Mary anoints. She makes sacred touch ordinary and powerful. When you anoint yourself, you are saying you are worthy of presence. You align your body with your intention. Step 3. Read a Magdalene passage Lectio style. Take one short line from a Magdalene text, even one sentence from the Gospel of Mary or a line from the Gnostics, and read it slowly 3 times. Listen for the word or image that pulls at you. Think of it like tasting a spice. You savor, you sense, you notice where it lands in your body. You discover what part of you needs remembering. Step 4. Name and disrupt one internalized pattern. Say aloud one small story you tell about yourself. I'm not heard, I don't belong, I must be perfect. Then do one tiny opposite act. If you say, I'm not heard, speak up for 1 minute. If you say, I must be perfect, allow a small mistake and notice you survive. Think of it like changing a playlist track. You replace a loop with a new line. This interrupts the old wiring and proves new options exist. Step 5. Do one embodied act of presence. Stand barefoot for 30 seconds, breathe into your belly while holding a door for someone, or sing a single line from an old hymn or song. The point is movement. Gnostic images of garments and partners point to union of body and spirit. Your embodied act stitches meaning into your day. You begin to feel what Mary's texts mean in your bones. Here, that's what this means for you in real life. You don't need an altar, a long prayer, or special training. You can do all 5 steps in 5 minutes at your kitchen counter, in your car, before a meeting, or at the end of a chaotic day. You will begin to see small shifts. You notice urges before you act. You feel steadier. You recognize old scripts when they appear, and you break them sooner. You discover a growing sense of authority inside you, not loud or aggressive, but quiet and true. You feel less scattered and more guided. If you skip practice, the same old patterns keep steering your life. If you commit, you reclaim the right to tell your own story and to remember an alternative lineage of knowing. You start small and build trust with yourself. In weeks, you recognize how rituals rewire attention. You feel when a story wants to replay, and you can choose the new track. You transcend reflexive shame. You break free from inherited roles, and you remember how to be present in your body, the exact kind of reclaiming Mary modeled in the texts. With this process activated, you're ready to live it hour by hour. Next, we step into a day lived by the Magdalene way, seeing how these 5 moves show up in work, family, and quiet moments. And what happens when you keep going? What if the Mary Magdalene you think you know was rewritten on purpose? In the last section, we followed images and rumors. Now you step into the paper trail that proves the rewrite. For 20 years, a quiet but powerful edit has been shaping who leads and who is silenced. In the 4th century, power players jockey for authority and script what counts as orthodox. Then in 591 CE, Gregory, the great fuses Mary Magdalene with the unnamed sinful woman, and Mary of Bethany, recasting her as a repentant prostitute. That sounds like old history, but it is a move that changes who stands at the center of the story today. You feel the force of that edit when you hear the church records recount the homily. And then you flip to the Nag Hammadi cache and the Berlin Codex, and suddenly the picture tilts again. The originals present Mary not as a fallen heroine, but as a visionary and teacher whose teachings others cannot easily grasp. The Nag Hammadi texts call her a woman who understood everything, and the Gospel of Philip paints her as the beloved companion who shares intimate spiritual roles. This is why the erase and relabel strategy matters. The originals reveal Mary as a revealer of soul ascent, inner knowledge, and the bridal chamber, ideas that threaten a system built on silence and hierarchy. For 20 years, a single edit has kept the power in the hands of a few. Here, what that means for you. You begin to see the same pattern in everyday life. Voices that unsettle power are softened, renamed, or pushed aside. When you speak up at work and your idea gets credited to someone else, you feel the echo of that ancient rewrite. When history lessons flatten complex people into single labels, you recognize the same cut. You discover you carry habits shaped by 2 millennia of a story that puts authority in the hands of a select few. But there is a remedy you can act on today. The Nag Hammadi pages remind you that knowledge can be direct, interior, and accessible. No gatekeeper required. So you start to notice missing pages in other stories. You reclaim the right to your own insight, and you break free from the quiet that says wisdom must come from on high. If you ignore this, the default narrative keeps telling you who can lead. If you act on it, you remember a fuller model of leadership, where teaching, vision, and spiritual authority can belong to anyone, women and men alike. You begin to recognize your own power to question, to connect, to learn, without waiting for permission. Next, we actually open those recovered texts. You will read lines from the Gospel of Mary and the Berlin Codex that were meant to be hidden, and you will hear how those words shift everything you thought you knew about authority, intimacy, and who gets to reveal the truth. Ancient texts reveal that Mary was not just a disciple, but a bridge, someone who holds the deeper teachings that the early church hesitated to trust. Nag Hammadi hints show a path where direct knowing, inside you not granted by a priest or temple, becomes the doorway to sovereignty. This is your invitation to notice the gaps, to feel the pull of a more complete story, and to ask, what if the sacred feminine isn't a threat but a missing piece that makes the whole picture whole again? If this resonates, you'll start to see how the past leaks into the present. You'll recognize the same impulse to silence genuine insight when you stand up for your own truth. But you'll also see a clear path, reclaim the direct line to wisdom, awaken the inner teacher inside you, and carry that fire into your everyday life. The truth isn't a distant artifact. It's a living lineage you can touch right now. So what was Mary Magdalene's greatest secret? It's not just a revelation about her role, it's the reminder that you too can access truth without waiting for approval. The rest is yours to uncover. For 20 years, a quiet question has hovered behind every sacred image. What happens when the voice that awakens us isn't male certainty, but a living, breathing woman? You realize you can feel the shift already. Ancient texts reveal a path where presence replaces noise, where inner seeing replaces doom-scrolling despair. The Gnostics knew this in the trenches of early Christianity. Mary Magdalene speaks and teaches directly. She receives and passes on inner knowing. When you stop treating her as a museum piece and begin to treat her as a living method, remembering becomes a daily skill, an act of steadiness in a world that loves distraction. You see complex spiritual knowing become a steadying practice. You choose braver actions. And yes, the ancients guarded these teachings because they change how you move through the world. This means for you a practical reset. For 7 days, do this short sequence each morning and evening and write one line about what shifts. You'll notice day 1, stop doom scrolling for 24 hours, instead sit 5 minutes and notice your breath. Day 2, name one person as beloved and send a short, honest note. Aim for mutual care, not performance. Day 3, do one small creative act with decisive attention. Day 4, practice a single unmediated witness. Tell one brief true thing about how you feel to someone you trust. Day 5, spend 10 minutes with a text from the Gospel of Mary or a line from Nag Hammadi and ask, what does this ask me to remember? Day 6, move your body in a way that feels like honoring yourself for 5 minutes. Day 7, share one insight publicly or in your circle. One Magdalene insight about presence or relationship. You can break free from autopilot. If you don't start, you stay scattered, anxious, and reactive. If you begin, you awaken. Here's how this shows up in your daily life. You felt that tug of your grip tightening before a notification. You pause, notice your breath, and choose 3 moments of stillness. You've experienced the relief of naming a friend as beloved and sending a real heartfelt message instead of a status update. You've watched a simple dish or a song become a spark for creativity. Your kitchen, your notebook, your window view becoming a tiny altar. This isn't superstition, it's training attention, a practice the Gnostics taught in the mind between the soul and spirit, where gnosis, true knowing, arises. Ancient texts reveal that such moments aren't distractions but openings. Modern science confirms that these tiny repeated acts rewire attention, lower reactivity, and help you choose with clarity. You begin to see your days with less noise, more presence, and a growing sense that you can stop outsourcing authority to screens and so-called experts. You can break free from autopilot and reclaim your own inner guidance. But there's something even more important beyond 7 days. This practice rewires your sense of authority. You begin to recognize your own inner teacher, your own direct line to source, without waiting for priests or programs. The Nag Hammadi texts show ancient wisdom, teaching that the sacred is not distant, but near, inside you and all around you. This leads to a deeper question. If the divine is within, how would your days change if you acted on that truth? The story of Mary Magdalene, preserved in those hidden lines, is a reminder that the feminine wisdom has always offered the map back to wholeness. You can break the grip of fear and claim a steadier, more creative life, not in theory, but in daily acts that prove it to be true. When you finish the week, bring what you've written into a restoration circle, online or in person, and offer one honest line, what you felt, what shifted, what you're claiming now. You begin to see how mutual relationships and decisive creativity feed each other. The next section will guide you deeper into community practices that make restoration stick. How to embody memory forward so it becomes a shared way of life, not a one-time experiment. Stay with what surfaced. Your next step is to carry it outward. The rest is yours to uncover.